Who told you that?
Your Highness.
New year, new me. Same me though.
You are now tuned in to another ColeLogic experience. Appreciating all the listeners keeping in tune with the book. We are here with another one. If you're following us, we are in chapter 3 of The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Blackman by Sister Shahrazad Ali. Picture of her if you ain't never seen it. Yep. In the last chapter, which was a pretty long chapter, we talked about the identity of the black man. And in chapter 3, we will be discussing the appearance of the black man. With that being said,
Another one.
here we go. And it goes a little something like, while it is both obvious and accurate to acknowledge that the black man is a fine physical specimen of the masculine gender, it is a good idea to study other categories of his appearance, such as his wardrobe, his jewelry, his hairstyles, and his external expression of himself. These factors help determine how he feels about himself, are examples of how he views himself, and contain innuendos regarding what messages he is trying to convey to onlookers. While it can be proven that he has faltered on many of his responsibilities adjacent to his home and related areas, and while it is visibly apparent that he has compromised on his needs and been systematically thwarted by others, there is one part of him that he remains in charge of. That is his appearance. He has throughout history attempted to dress as together and finely as possible. To start with, the marketers and advertising firms have tricked him into being incredibly misled on the value of fashion. If he can afford to, and if it is possible at all, he will wear the best of available garments. This includes underwear, socks, shirt, leather tops, slacks, suits, and recreational wear, hats, overcoats, sport jackets, ties, scarves, and of course, his shoes. Starting with shoes, which also took on an exaggerated importance, he sanctioned the idea that one of the ways to replete man was recognized was by what he wore on his feet. Many of them wear the very best shoes that white shoemakers can design. They may range from the price of $75 to $500, depending on the designer name attached to them, the type of leather used, and the comfort. Some have all different colors from yellow to green, some with laces or slip-ons. Shoes used to be a very necessary component of the black man's wardrobe. They were something he took pride in and a necessity. As he has become more leisure oriented, he has relaxed his shoe requirements. When the shoe industry noted this kind of trend, they quickly responded and provided footwear to reflect the mood of a less uptight male. The growing popularity of black men as basketball greats or other public sports figures from whom many black men and black boys derive special pleasure from watching and see as his heroic gave the shoe industry an inroad to gaining their attention. So what started out as being called gym shoes are now almost strictly referred to as sneakers, running, or tennis shoes. Thus arrived the acceptance of regular day-to-day wearing of gym shoes. In a societal climate where relaxation has become the major goal, sneakers appear to be the natural foot covering for this transformation. The industry responded by supplying them in all colors, weights, and ankle lengths, and attached hefty price tags ranging from $50 to $300, settling on an average of say $75 per pair. The manufacturers assigned certain catchy brands name titles to them, then developed contemporary fast-track commercials to advertise them. Then dropped a blockbuster whammy of an idea and started labeling the sneakers after the name of basketball stars whom black males admired. That's all there was to it. This kind of marketing launched the now multi-million-dollar industry of sneaker sales. Practically every black man and black boy owned a pair or several pair. The younger black males, competitive in spirit, make it a fashion no-no to wear non-brand name sneakers or to continue to wear them after they become old, worn, or sold. This makes it psychologically necessary not to only wear expensive designer sneakers, but to purchase them frequently so that they always look new. Preferably one would have several pairs to match different outfits. Analyzing the sneaker craze on another level, the original design and purpose of sneakers was for exercise, playing sports games, and to ease standing or walking long distances. When the black man took to wearing sneakers all day, every day, all week throughout the seasons, it placed him in a position to always be ready to play or exhibit informal, overly playful behavior. Keeping a black man in sneakers ensures that on a moment's notice he will be willing to play around or jump around or run immaturely. They are a sure sign of recreation. A man who wears hard-bottom shoes is less apt to break into a prance or dance a jig. Hard-bottom shoes require the black man to walk differently, stand differently, and they bring more seriousness to his motion and decorum. This is why professional businessmen are required to wear standard hard-bottom shoes. They are a must requirement in all genuine business, social, or religious affairs among civilized, well-bred adults. The black man needs to take off the sneakers and go back to wearing hard-bottom shoes. He also needs to give up wearing shorts and running suits in public and go back to donning slacks or regular pants, preferably with a belt. The same goes for the now fashionable slogan t-shirts. Adult black men should set an example or serious manly attire. Sneakers have single-handedly reduced almost the entire black male population to behaving like youngsters. If worn, they should be used exclusively for recreational activities and then taken off. Wearing high-bottom shoes is another way to separate the men from the boys. Currently, practically all of them look like boys. Yet if anyone refers to him as a boy, he claims it as the worst insult imaginable. If he established a boy's identity for himself, then he should not mind being recognized as one. The black man is in a unique position because he has fewer outlets to express his frustrations in than his women. He can't very well complain of menstrual cramps once a month or get excused for his oft-time erratic behavior by blaming it on PMS. He has to handle it 24/7, 52 per year. One of the arenas he has used for self-expression or of his feelings, his mood, his superiority or rebellion is his personal appearance. His search for an identity, which was the prominent issue during the 60s, seemingly led him to the notion that, in agreement with the whites, who were also seeking a new definition of life at that time, the major inference of consideration was one's obligation to self. He envisioned all of this to mean that he should start having a good time, best expressed by his clothes, leisure activities, cars, and sports. His self-perception began in his closet. He chose his outer garment body covering as a tool to portray his self-image. Image is the root word for imagination, most manifested by symbols or signs that project a certain idea or impression. Image is a voiceless message, and many of the image messages black men project are visible proof of his scattered ideas and confusing thoughts. Deeply rooted in his psyche is his pre-American history of being ornate. This is best expressed in the intricately decorated findings of the chiefs, queens, and other members of royal black families who decked out in arabesque outfits and adorned flamboyant jewelry from head to toe. His being an ornamentalist has made him somewhat of a spectacle in many circles. He has a reputation for being intentionally embellished in flashy, conspicuous, high-colored outfits. His choice of fancy garbs is something he takes special pride in. He delights in receiving special attention for assembling a conglomeration of pieces that attract stares or admiration from unknown bystanders. He wants to project an image of him that denotes his baroque expert taste and ability to organize a look of exceptional good taste on wardrobe selection. His use of symbols has thrived throughout his existence. As he lost contact with more and more attachment to his past, he came to rely almost exclusively on outside means to convey his identity. They do believe that clothes indeed create power. No price is too high, no risk is too great, or no mountain is high enough to keep him from getting and wearing a unique piece of clothing. It also got him extra notice from women who admire such garnishness. In all mammals, the male who are the most fancifully plumed of uniquely endowed receive the most attention from the female population. The black man is a natural show-off, and he does it very well. naturally. Those black men who are not artificially competitive tend to place less importance on outer appearance. Clothes are just to cover the body to them, and they are more embroiled with internal issues. Of course, some of them cannot afford to dress as finely as they would prefer. However, even among that unaffected group, there are certain rules that must be followed to ensure a basic measure of acceptance from the black public. These rules, which no one knows how they originated or who made them up, consist of standards such as: 1. He is not to wear plaids or stripes or polka dots and tweed. 2. He must not wear wide leg pants or pants without pockets. 3. He, under no circumstances, is to wear no-name sneakers. 4. He must never put on a pair of pants that land above his ankles. 5. He cannot adorn a suit with the wrong size lapels. 6. He should not mix unsimilar shades of colors in random sequence. These are just examples of the guidelines that are used to measure his public image. Violation of these rules earn him a disdain, laughter, mockery, dislike, less consideration, and may cause him to be perceived as intellectually endowed. It can prevent him from gaining the attention of a woman and imply that he has no style. Style is a word used to clarify not only a particular type of clothing, but a black man's total demeanor. The use of clothing as a symbol to project an image is an ever-changing one because the wearer must assume that the person appraising his appearance is aware of whatever the current standard is. A symbolic image is only effective if the definition of the symbol is widely known or practiced. Usually, the black man creates new definitions for certain symbols. By doing so, he subliminally dictates to the fashion industry which slant their designs should lean toward. They occasionally turn a fashion designer's efforts into a new creative concept of how to wear or what to wear with. They set a standard and in many cases define what the season-to-season styles will be. The brand name they revere are routinely the names of white males or reflectively of white imagery taken from white experiences. In refining his image somewhere along the line, he developed a positional stance referred to as cool. Cool is explicitly defined by them as: 1. To be able to dress fine and stand absolutely still. 2. Not to become ruffled under pressure. 3. Slow walking, slow talking, low voice or quiet. 4. To proudly be the first to display some outlandish style. 5. Be impeccably dressed and color coordinated all the time. 6. To drive a slick, expensive model of car and act unaffected. 7. To stand back from the crowd and not reveal what he is thinking. 8. Be by himself a lot. 9. Keep a non-committal look on his face and show no emotion. 10. To be very conservative in his lifestyle and clothing selection. There exist several visible cliques of black men who have affiliated themselves with various religious causes which dictate they wear non-Western attire. If nothing else, they are bold since they go against the fashion grain of what black men usually wear. These men dress in long white or brightly colored gowns or robe-like outfits that are patterned after Eastern fashion. The design of these garments were specifically arrived at by Easterners in warm climates because their light colors reflect heat and cover the body loosely for comfort and ventilation. The black men who wear these draping outfits mostly are seen in them in the summer. These fabrics are usually cotton, rayon, or polyester blend to promote coolness. These black men will wear some type of matching baggy pants under their long robe-like tops they wear regular slacks. Their fashion statement is usually not effectively seen to project their image during the winter because they either have to wear large shawls or capes or a regular Western design overcoat or jacket. This is due to the fact that since these garments are worn in warm eastern climates, they do not have matching coats or winter wear for frigid season, as they do not have any. This also makes wearing sandals in winter counterproductive to providing protection in warmth. The American climate is not really conducive of wearing African-style clothing year-round. This presents somewhat of a problem which has not yet been solved by black men who wear these type of clothing. Their desire is to reflect their honorable efforts to dress like their ancestors and to identify with them by wearing a symbol of their ancient attire. Their outfits are also to project an idea of their black consciousness and refusal to wear Western-styled clothing. Their sparse numbers make them a spectacle, and it is falsely assumed that if a black man is wearing a complete outfit of African or Eastern clothes, that it is culturally aware. That he is culturally aware. It is a costume of escape. Many of them wear those outfits to get special attention or to be rebel against the popular norm or to make dressing simpler or more predictable. Some of them are clean and others are shabby looking or soiled. Ornate by nature. Black men also like flashy, oversized, attention-attracting jewelry if they can obtain or afford it. Big rings, long neck chains, thick length or bands. Some of them are so impressed with their names or nicknames as their special identity that they have specifically made diamond or gold pieces with their names embezzled in recognizable lettering. The standard is that every black man who is on top of style must have an admirable piece of jewelry of his own person somewhere, and it must be verifiable real, meaning it must be gold, silver, or contain precious stones like diamonds, rubies, or emeralds. On the lower end, onyx, carnelian, ivory, agate, or amber is acceptable. The more unusual the design or assembly of stones, the more prized the piece is considered to be. They vie with each other to be the most different. They make it a point to not want to own anything similar or just like each other. The younger black males often do the opposite. They make their likeness and dress a kind of requirement or acceptance of each other. They perceive their likeness and wardrobe to signify their unity of ideas about what is decent or all that, which are examples of some of the vernacular they made up themselves to communicate covertly to each other about approved items. Their search of an identity or identifying symbols is a desperate, pitiful one, just like their fathers. The black man's hair has also been an accessory to try to establish his identity. Certain groups have always assumed their own haircut style, or beard shape, or sideburns. A haircut is very important. Certain jobs they pursue have definite hairstyle requirements. The most consistent haircut and the one perceivably accepted in the majority of circles he frequents is closely shaven with low sides and a small amount on the top with possibly a part on either side of his head. This is the conservative choice. However, they have experimented with many other styles, like the process achieved by a lye-based chemical which straightens their hair and is then indented in rolls with designs to simulate waves. Possibly a few curls in a pompadour top or just slicked back. They abandoned this one, mostly worn by entertainers because it was too hard to maintain. They also adapted the afro hairstyle, consisting of a wide puffed out circle of hair shaped like a globe. Chemicals and spray were also developed to maintain this look that they wore to identify themselves as being proud of their formerly disdained nappy or kinky hair. They agreed to voluntarily no longer try to chemically force their hair into looking similar to the straight or fluffy looks of white male. Variations of the afro have survived through the years and are still somewhat acceptable, as long as it is not too prominent in length. Black men wear braids or dreadlocks too. Other hairstyles they chose, like the jerry curl, consisted of chemicals that artificially made them have curly, shiny locks of varying lengths. This hairstyle requires a lot of care, a lot of accessory products to keep it shiny and moist looking, and was greasy to the touch. This look had no radical identifying overtones and just represented a trendy look inspired by hair salons and hair product manufacturers to capture the black dollar spent on permanent waves or in regular barbershops. The box hairstyle created by more youthful black males popped up a few years ago, conceivably attached to boredom and an attempt to be different. It started out short, got higher and higher, and eventually started to look like a tall crown of sorts with the haircut very close to the size of the head. This, no doubt, gives many of them subtle sense of royalty of wearing of a crown of sorts. They came many variations of this cut, different slants, angles, and curves. Next came the procedure of shaving off portions of the hair in odd configurations, having several parts cut into the hair in a unique design, and even having certain symbols or names carved into the hair to advertise or identify with individual ideas or interpretations. Even adult black men commenced to get several parts neatly carved into their hair. Others attached so much meaning to having a head of hair, that they wear wigs or top of a bald spot, or even more moderately, they get hair weaves. While women can get away with foolish bystanders about the length and texture of her hair, a man cannot. Every black man who wears a hairpiece or has a hair weave is spotted immediately. Some wear them like an extra hat because their presence, recognizable or not, uplifts their confidence and makes them feel equal. They spend a great deal of money and time selecting expensive smelling aftershave lotions and talcums. Their wardrobe standard require they wear a name brand fragrance. Whatever the popular or expensive brand is the one they seek out to splash themselves with. Some of them wear more Eastern fragrances found in body oils. They use many cosmetics attached to shaving. They even use liquid or pancake makeup, which they also think is unnoticeable, but they use it anyway to make others think they have smooth, creamy looking skin. They also use the cut of their mustaches to project their individual images. Other black men decide to wear their hair long and flamboyantly styles, or the jagged mop-like dreadlock hairstyle, long or short. All of these looks are attempts to make a statement that expresses their position either about their blackness or sophistication. It has not worked. They have established certain looks and behaviors to designate themselves as having ideas and a culture of their own. It's interesting to note that their symbols are transferable. If a white man shows up in their circle who has studied how to look, dress, talk, walk, and dress like black, he is apt to be accepted into the group based on his identification with the symbols the black man has established as qualifiers for inclusion. The technique of copying symbols is also used by blacks who desire to function among whites and receive acceptance for their ability to display or mimic the symbols inherent in white life. Black men do not arbitrarily oust other nationalities from their groups, especially if the person can fit in by being the same as them. They will even start to refer to the white man as their brother by virtue of his physical actions or sounds. Many of them refer to whites by the term brother, even if they do not function as to resemble their symbols. They do this to remind white males that they are related or remind themselves that they are the same. Black men answer any questions a white man may walk up to them and ask. They give all the information they know about any given subject when called upon. It's almost automatic for them to quickly respond, dressed up or not. The latest trend among black males is to seek out ethnic items to denote their pride in their blackness. They are great advertisers. They delight in wearing garments, advertising Reebok, Nike, Adidas, Fila, Puma, or other popular names just as much as they do in wearing a stripe of kente cloth, a fez hat, a kufi, an African pendant, Pan-African colors, red, black, and green, or an entire African costume. They are strictly dealing with symbols which they define as having identifiable meanings, or so they think. The resurgence in African clothing and African products really only represents a change in fashion and is a profitable trend for the manufacturers. T-shirts stating political and amusing statements are now popular because they let black men wear a sign which supposedly announces his identity or position. Some of them wear t-shirts boldly imprinted with vulgar sentences or words or pictures. They do not see them as offensive and consider themselves brave for taking the challenge of wearing a sign. They are trying to make an identity for themselves. They already have an identity, but they reject it because it requires them to change the way they think and live. They are too mentally lazy to attempt this, so they continually rely on external shields they can wear and forget about. Wait a second. To further the gossip regularly circulated about their mythological grandiose sexuality, many black men purposely selected clothes to accentuate their sexual presence. They try to formulate an identity by wearing shirts half open to the waist, revealing their chests. They walk down the street in biker shorts, displaying an outline of their penis. They might wear tight-fitting pants to hug their thighs or buttocks, or they may wear skimpy swim trunks, also chosen to draw attention to the imprint of their sex organ. Some just choose to walk around with no shirt on at all, or in short shorts to display their bodies and hopefully their virility. Black women use clothes to look better. Black men use them to feel better. These days, modern surgical technologies make it possible for the black man to make physical, cosmetic changes in his looks. He can get a nose job or change the shape or size of his beak. He can have his ears pinned back. He can have his lips trimmed and his eyes widened. He can reconstruct his entire face, including his eyes, with contacts to look as much as like a black European as possible. These are vain actions that further demonstrate his dissatisfaction with himself. Few black men have their nose made flatter or wider, and none desire to have their lips enlarged. The black man has internalized the jokes and racial slurs about his proud, distinct, and different African facial features. This is also obviously an attitude of a black man who used a tad of chemical hair straightener in his hair to create a slick curl or wave. He is still trying to emulate the looks and hair texture of a group he says are his oppressors. He does everything he can to look as much like them because he thinks it will make him more acceptable and allow him to blend in more. But he can never get very far from his actual skin color unless he is so fair-skinned as to be able to pass for white. Some of them do that too. They want to be as far removed from their blackness as possible. While it is important to be able to speak the language used to communicate in America, the black man will adopt a European style of talking and tone his voice that on the telephone make it possible to determine whether he is white or black. While speaking this way in itself may be considered harmless, the problem lies in the black man not only copying the language but mimicking the ideas, attitude, and priorities of others. The use of specialized language, intonations of other races or nationality makes the black man take on an entire mental disguise to imitate others and become further removed from the complications of his own nationality. They use the language as a defense mechanism to deny their identity and to absorb other ones. As a final revelation regarding black men proudly wearing name brand and designer sneakers, while walking around claiming that they are trying to reclaim their African culture, the word Nike is defined as the name of the winged goddess of victory in Greek mythology. It is doubtful that any black male or black teenage male in America knows that a white woman named Nike, who they honor and represent by wearing sneakers, caps, sweatsuits, socks, and other items, is not representative of African or any other non-white culture. Much of what the black man says, wears, does, or supports is in direct contradiction of his verbal expression of being a true black man and his attempt to reconnect to his pre-slavery legacy. The black man should investigate all of the labels, words on clothing he wears so that he will understand how confusing he appears to intelligent people. He should not wear signs or symbols which are alien to his blackness. His clothes do not have to have a name on them at all, or to serve the purpose of covering. I'm sorry, I gotta say that again. His clothes do not have to have a name on them at all to serve the purpose of covering the body neatly. Black men are drawn to wearing garments with names on them because it gives them an identity. He knows nothing about the companies he supports with his patronage, money. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 3, the appearance. In the next chapter, we will be getting into the black man's communications. And to end us with this chapter, we will expound a few questions to get us thinking about the next one. These questions are: do you lie most of the time? Do you know why you lie? Can you talk without cursing? Do you curse in front of elders? Do you curse in front of your children? Do you consider yourself intelligent, and why? Alright. Again, The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Blackman. Sister Shahrazad Ali. We'll be back for chapter 4. And even though this is the Black Woman's Guide, on the back it says, every black man in America should read this book and share it with their sons to give them a sense of who they are and what his obstacles are. And with that being said,
Hello, motherfucker.
Who told you that?
Your Highness.
New year, new me. Same me though.
oh yeah, and I keep forgetting. If you're watching the video, you'll see the solo link at the bottom. That is solo.to/ColeLogic. And also, if you're enjoying the content, you can hit my Cash App, $Cole1212, or my Venmo at UniverCole, UNIVERCOLE. And that's all, folks.